to not be able to race against Big Jim and those guys. He's a living legend of the sport. A lot of respect for him. But that clown driving the car, maybe he ought to keep his mouth shut from now on.
Growing up, I was afraid of clowns. Yep, still am.
I love to make people.
All right, so the Seattle Northwest Nationals is in the books. We are now 2/3 of the way through the Western Swing, and I've said since the beginning of the season that this isn't a season that you can afford to miss. From the competition standpoint alone, I feel like this has been a really strong season, one of the best out there in the world of motorsports. Well, today really picked up another crescendo because it finally gave us the thing that I feel that the Pro Series has been missing. We've seen it happen in the sportsman category with the alcohol cars, but it's finally reached the nitro fuel car ranks with the funny car, and that being what I believe is going to be the headline taking over the weekend. Of course, we've had three incredible winners with Tim Wilkerson, Steve Torrence, and Gaige, who we'll talk about in a bit. But the headline, arguably, which is already stealing it, I've seen Drag Illustrated, I've seen, I believe, Drag Coverage is the one that covers it. Drag Racing Central and myself are covering it all day. The ongoing beef that has just started between J.R. Todd and Alex Laughlin. And honestly, without a doubt, is probably the most interesting thing that's going to come out from all of this. It started all the way back in round number 1. J.R. Todd faced off against Alex Laughlin. Alex Laughlin's car started. He rolled off. J.R. Todd didn't. So there was a question if J.R. Todd was going to make the start. Matt Hagan came up. His crew came up and helped him get the car started, and they rolled out to go do the burnout. When they went to stage, Alex Laughlin's car, for some reason, when they put it into drive to go put it into the staging lights, the car rolled back. JR rolled forward, and he went down the racetrack and took the win from Alex Laughlin. Alex's team pushed the car back off the starting line. When he got to the top interview, this is when it got interesting. From the moment he got out, he talked about the struggles with the car, but the thing that stole headlines is when he started off by saying that he was disappointed that he didn't get to run the Jim Dunn team because he has a lot of respect for Big Jim, says that he is a living legend of the sport, has a lot of respect for him, but then said, and I quote basically, the clown that is driving the car, maybe he should keep his mouth shut from now on. And that kind of just sent like alarm bells ringing throughout the entire NHRA paddock of like, whoa, where did this come from? What was that about? Nobody understood really what it came from until people started digging in deeper. Alan Reinhardt pointed out, said you should go check out social media and see what Alex was talking about. So they did. It started off from yesterday when people found out that he said he was going to be racing the yellow FedEx car. Now, of course, that didn't really make sense. If that's what got JR so mad, that doesn't really make sense. If that's really the case, then honestly, JR's soft. But it went further than that. Did it all the way back to the Pomona race, all the way back in March for the Winter Nationals. Round 1, if you remember, Alex Laughlin faced off against J.R. Todd. J.R. Todd, who struggled all weekend, blew the body off the car and wrecked John Force, blew the body again in round number 1 against Alex, giving him his first round win of the season. And again, Alex went out there and started running his mouth, saying we dropped a hole at the step, but JR dropped a whole lot more. You don't have to beat the best on race day. You just have to be better than the guy next to you. So he moves on there. Moving on into the comments, a fan said that he used to like JR. He turned into a cocky little jerk. Alex responded saying he's pretty rude. Well, after those comments were made, Alex being knocked down in round 1 had a lot to think about. So what did he do? He does what he does best. He has been known really for going on social media and being the guy that doesn't really back down from much. If a fan tries to call him out, he is back with a shot real quickly. He is very outspoken on his Facebook page, and again, doing it here. Posts a picture of a J.R. Todd hero card in a waste manager trash can inside the paddock, saying, just in, J.R. dropping fans like cylinders in Pomona. Later, I believe Lyle Barnett Racing posted this. He goes into the comments and says he needed to bring a friend or a wrench to make it fair for the little fella. So, yeah. There's beef within the paddock. Right now it's one-sided because while Alex was on Facebook talking, J.R. Todd was busy going back-to-back final rounds. I believe semifinal rounds, back-to-back semifinal rounds. He made his first final round today since all the way back at the Gator Nationals back at the beginning of the season. So we have yet to really hear a response from J.R. Todd, but believe me, Alex Laughlin's loud on Facebook, JR Todd's loud on Twitter, and I guarantee you by Monday morning or by the afternoon, we're going to hear a response from JR Todd. And by all means, keep an eye on my Twitter. We got social media down there below. You'll be able to see it, follow along, because I'll be all over it, because that's definitely the thing that I'll be watching out. But this is going to be really interesting, because I think that this is what the series has been missing, is a beef, something, a rivalry to start out. And it's between two guys that don't back down, that don't really apologize too much, that are very hard-headed, and are those guys that I believe will take this further. Alex Laughlin is very smart when it comes to social media. He knows how to get his name out there. So whether or not this is him actually being angry at JR Todd, or understanding, hey, this is a way to get my name out there so that way more people see what I'm doing, because him and his family are both good business people, and they know that this is going to bring a lot of eyes to his social media pages. It's going to be good because they're going to see the sponsors of Haviland, Hot Wheels, and everything else, Menards, everything. I think like the Binto Exhaust, or whatever they're called. Everybody that sponsors this car are going to be looking at them, so there's going to be a lot to look forward to see how far this is going to be taken, especially going into Sonoma, which is in a week's time, so they don't have a lot of time to cool down. They're going to see each other next Friday. Now, let's quickly jump into the rankings and the ladders from today's eliminations, so that we can get into the highlight videos from the end of the day. Jumping straight into Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gaige, Herrera, #1 qualifier. Big surprise, goes through the rounds, faces Lance Bonham around #1. Lance fouls out. Gaige Herrera moves on to round #2 to a solo run, moves to the semifinals to face Hector Arana Jr., and then makes it to the finals. The person he would face is Eddie Krawiec, takes out Ryan Ayler around #1. Chase Van Sant continuing to build off the momentum that he's shown off back at the Norwalk Nationals. Makes it to round #2, 10th qualifier, loses to Eddie Krawiec, moves on to the semifinals against Matt Smith, who took down his wife in the semifinals. I keep saying, I think Matt Smith is starting to gain his footing. I think that bike is really starting to gain speed, and he's showing it week after week after week. This week was a step back for that Matt Smith Racing Gen 3 Hayabusa. Something wrong with the bike. Cannot get the bike to turn over and start, so he had to push it off and didn't even get an opportunity to race his way into the finals. He didn't even get an opportunity to do the burnout, had to push it off. He said he didn't know what the problem was. We're going to go back and dissect it. Hopefully we get an update on that. If there is, again, keep it on social media. I'll be sure to share it. Eddie Krawiec faces off in the solo run, moves on to the finals, an all Vance and Hines final. #1 qualifier Gaige Herrera versus #2 qualifier Eddie Krawiec. Gaige Herrera won it back at Denver, is now the only person who has an opportunity to win the Western Swing, and he keeps it alive by taking down Eddie Krawiec in the first ever race at Pacific Raceways. Wins the first ever Northwest Nationals for Pro Stock Motorcycle, and keeps the Western Swing alive as he holds on to his points lead. Jumping into funny car, Tim Wilkerson, we have not seen much of him. That car has struggled. We've seen him go a couple rounds, but he hasn't really gone deep into the brackets most of the season. Last time we saw him do real well was back in Chicago when he won it. Round #1 faces off against Matt Hagan. Matt Hagan, who had an opportunity to try and complete the Western Swing with funny car, goes out round #1. A 3.928, smokes the tires and loses to a 5.068. Tim moves on to face off against Ron Capps. A 4.006, Ron smokes the tires as well, a 9.58. Moving him on against Blake Alexander, and you got to give credit to Blake Alexander. He's had an incredible past few weeks. He skipped down on Denver, won it back at Norwalk, runs it all the way to the semifinals after Bob Tasca smokes in round #1. He gets a bye run into the semis, so he's able to make it all the way to the semifinals as well. A good points day for him, but ends it there as Tim Wilkerson runs his way to the final to take off against JR Todd, who beat Chad Green in the semifinals, who beat Cruz Pedregon in round #2, and then beat, like we said, Alex Laughlin in round #1. So it was a semifinal. Kalitta Motorsports, JR Todd, last time he made the finals was back at the Gainesville Gator Nationals. Before that, it was all the way back to the Northwest Nationals a year prior. So back-to-back final round appearances for the DHL Supra. A 4.014 loses to Tim Wilkerson's 4.007, and once again, Timmy the Tiger makes it to the finals and gets his second win of the season. And lastly, in Top Fuel, Steve Torrence. I have been giving this guy a lot of props. I've been saying that his win's coming. I picked him multiple times to win a national event this year, and he disappointed me. He said earlier this week to Drag Illustrated that he thinks this is the weekend that he was going to get it done, like everybody else says. But again, if you watch Steve Torrence, it's something they can honestly believe, because that team has slowly and surely built themselves up to be a front runner in the category. He had an off year, if you really want to call it that, being 6th in the top fuel standings, and has worked to try and turn it around to be back into the standards that everybody expects the Capco boys to be. Round number 1 against Josh Hart, beats him to move on to round number 2 to face off against Brittany Force, takes down the reigning champion at 3.752 to an 8.811, moves on to the semifinals to face off against Sean Langdon, back-to-back semifinal appearances for him as well. An incredible showing for Kalitta Motorsports altogether, as Doug Kalitta as well makes it to back-to-back final round appearances. But regardless, all their cars made it to at least the semifinals. So again, Kalitta really starting to turn the gears and find a way to click on those win lights, and sooner or later a DHL car, or Kalitta Motorsports car, will end up in the winner's circle. But again, Steve Torrence makes it to the final, face off against Doug Kalitta. Clay Millican, again, I had high hopes for him. We've seen it back at Chicago. He wins the race, went to Epping, had a lot of momentum going there. The rain washed it away, and we didn't get to see it again until that win at Denver. It looked like he was going to do it again and to have an opportunity to sweep the Western Swing going into Sonoma. Round number 1, faces off against Lear Pruitt, beats her, moves on to face off against Justin Ashley, defeats him, moves on to a semifinal appearance. Really starting to click on those win lights. This is a huge points today for the Rick Ware Racing team, something that they badly needed. They jumped 12th to 10th in the standings because of their win in Denver. I think they're going to jump up to 9th or 8th because of the semifinal appearance. Faced off against Doug Kalitta, and then a really rare mistake I've seen from Clay. Runs 0.2 under the tree, red lights by 1.5 miles, and gives up an opportunity to complete the Western Swing at Seattle. Doug Kalitta is given a win, 3.813, move him to the final round appearance against Steve Torrence, and what was guaranteed to be Toyota's 200th professional win in the NHRA. Steve Torrence, the man that's going to deliver to him a 3.940, takes out Doug Kalitta's 4.861, and Steve Torrence wins his first race since the Gateway Nationals a year ago. So a huge turnaround for the Capco boys as now they head into Sonoma. They're going to try and build off and kick off their championship campaign. Doug Kalitta, again, starting to click off those win lights and show him the Doug Kalitta that we used to know, and try and get Kalitta Motorsports their first Wally in a very long time. Sean Langdon as well, doing an incredible job. But Clay Millican, I said it from the start of the season, this team was going to be a threat. It seems that morale and mojo really swings the confidence for this team, and this was the first time that we've really seen Clay make a huge mistake like this, running so low under the tree. I know for a fact he's going to be beating himself up for this. I'm going to look forward to seeing his vlog come out in a couple of days to see how he responds to this, and it's going to be very interesting to see if this is going to affect how that team runs heading into the Sonoma Nationals. So again, we have a lot of highlight videos to go through. Let's jump straight into them.
Gaige Herrera is 25 on the tree to Eddie's 61, and as they get to the finish line stripe, the Gaige is set for a potential sweep of the Western Swing. 676 for 198, knocking him down like 10 pins.
Down here with Gaige Herrera, who has just won 5 of 7 races here in Pro Stock Motorcycle. You've been dominating. Not only do you have the performance, but you've been riding. You took 400s at the starting line. You had 400s more performance out the back. How good does it feel to be in this situation where you're riding a bike that good and riding this well?
Oh, it's I can't even put it into words. You know, I got an awesome machine. You know, I got an awesome group of guys behind me. The whole Van Size Mitchell Suzuki team. They've been working hard. You know, in the off season and this whole season. You know, we've had a flawless season so far, and to be able to race my teammate Ed in the final, that was I would say that's the hardest race for me, because it's he's my boss, and but at the end of the day, the Wally's coming home in Vance Hines. So all in all, I'm very happy. Woo!
Tim Wilkerson was just 50 on the Christmas tree, and at the stripe it's Wilkerson, 4007 at 321 miles an hour. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you might be able to make him jump through a hoop every once in a while.
Well, for the second time this season, Tim Wilkerson is holding a Wally for Funny Car. And Tim, you take a lot of pride in not only driving this thing, but tuning it. As a driver, you were 50 on the tree, gave your team an advantage. As a tuner, you were consistent as all get out. Which do you take more pride in?
Well, that was dumb luck, that 50. I'll tell you that. JR leaves on everybody in the class, so I'm proud of that, believe me or not. But I never expected something like that to happen. But I was pretty wound up for that round, and I had it poked in there pretty damn deep, I bet you. But, hey, for LRS and Skag, a lot of Skag folks here, and for Ford, they've stuck with me for a long time, and people from Summit Racing Equipment. God bless all of you, and what a great day. Yeah, but to leave on JR's, I'm not gonna brag about that. That's dumb luck. But sure love this racing, and sure love NHRA. Thank you very much for a great racetrack, Seattle.
Congratulations, Tim.
Thank you.
Both drivers now in pre-stage. The Top Fuel final round of the Northwest Nationals. They're both triple-digit reaction time, and it's going to be Steve Torrence, 394 and 289. Once again, it is not going to hang on the wall of an art museum, but that is a victory for Steve Torrence.
Here with our Northwest Nationals Top Fuel champion, Mr. Steve Torrence. Steve, the question to you is, are you happy the fact that I don't have to keep asking you when are you going to win one?
You know, you win a lot of these and you get used to it and you get a little bit complacent and maybe not as grateful as you should be. But these Capco Contractors boys and this Toyota Dragster, Mac Tools Redline Oil, they've stuck with me. And this is awesome to be able to win 200 for Toyota. But first and foremost, first race I've won since my grandmother passed away. Pretty badass, man.
So again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, an incredible event to get us well into the Western Swing in this hot summer months. We have the Sonoma Nationals next weekend to finish off the Western Swing as we get closer to the cutoff for the countdown to the championship at the U.S. Nationals. If you want to keep up on what's going on in the drag racing world, be sure follow me on social media pages all the way down below. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and even Threads, Mighty Mac 03. Follow me on all those social media pages. Subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what you thought of the race. What you think of the J.R. Todd versus Alex Laughlin beef. Whose side are you on? Let me know down below. Be sure to like it. Be sure to share it so everybody else knows what's going on in the drag racing world. And so that way we can really grow drag racing, because I keep saying this. This is a season you cannot miss. And with what we saw today, it's only going to get better. We have Sonoma Nationals in a week's time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys back here next week so we can go cover that as we get closer to the big go. But until then, this has been Mighty Mac, and I will see you next time.